Right, welcome back. I am Omoife Peace Osemere. Let's begin with audit matters, as the federal government is set to commence a fresh audit of the 2.8 trillion naira fuel subsidy claim by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. This, according to reports, was revealed in the minutes of the Federal Account Allocation Committee meeting held in March 2024. An audit firm, KPMG, had reportedly conducted an initial audit, reducing the claims from 6 trillion naira to 2.7 trillion naira. It was gathered that the federal government is also considering either engaging an external audit firm or directing the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation to verify the claims made by the corporation regarding the amount the government owes the oil firm. It would be recorded by the NNPCL Group Chief Executive Officer, Melekari, told newsmen that the federal government still owed the firm the sum of 2.8 trillion naira spent on petrol subsidy shortly after the removal of subsidy declaration by President Bola Tinubu May last year. While saying the NNPCL footed petrol subsidy bills from its cash flow, Kyari said the government had so far been unable to pay back the 2.8 trillion naira. The federal government says mandatory registration of point-of-sales operators nationwide will reduce kidnapping and help security agencies arrest recipients of ransom payments from kidnapped victims. The Registrar General of CAC, Hussein Ishaq Magaji SAN, who disclosed this at the formal launch of the CAC registration of agents and merchants of fintechs on Wednesday in Abuja, added that security agencies would go after POS operators who fail to comply with the directive to register with the Corporate Affairs Commission after July 7, 2024. Recall that the federal government had, through the CAC on Monday, issued a 2-month registration deadline for POS operators to register as corporate bodies with the Commission in line with the legal requirement and directives of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The action, which is reportedly backed by Section 863, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, as well as the 2013 CBN Guidelines on Agent Banking, aims to safeguard businesses and strengthen the economy. This is coming on the heels of frequent fraud incidents involving POS terminals and plans to stop trading in cryptocurrency or any virtual currency by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The CBN had last week stopped major fintech firms like Kuda, Opay, PalmPay, and MoneyPoint from onboarding new customers. The fintech firms later warned their customers against trading in cryptocurrency or any virtual currency on their apps, threatening to block any accounts found engaging in such activities. The Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform says that there is need to increase the value-added tax VAT rate. Speaking at the Policy Exposure and Impact Assessment session organized by the committee, its chairman, Taiwo Oyedele, disclosed that the VAT revenue sharing formula would be reviewed. Oyedele said the committee has proposed reviewing state and local government's share of VAT revenue to 90% from the current 85%. It was gathered that Section 40 of the VAT Act entails the federal government gets 15% of the tax revenue. States would share 50% and local government 35%. The committee chairman said the implication of the proposed new sharing structure is that the new sharing formula for VAT is now in favor of the lower tier of government because it is a tax generated at the state level. A member of the House of Representatives from Borno State, Ahmed Jaha, has called on the federal government to recruit military mercenaries to address the security issues in the country. According to media reports, Jaha suggested that government recall the mercenaries used during former President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Jaha, who represents the Chibok, Damboa, Goza federal constituency, made the score during a parliamentary session where a motion on insecurity was presented. The lawmaker, who is optimistic that recruiting mercenaries would resolve Nigeria's security challenge, further stressed that security agencies across the country have failed to protect Nigerians. You're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, Chairman, Senate Committee on Petroleum, Downstream, Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, says Port Harcourt and Warri refineries would be fully operational by the end of 2024. We'll bring you details of this and more after this break. Do join us again. Right, welcome back. This is News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Let's quickly head on now to Kaduna State, where the governor, Senator Uba Sani, has lamented the drop in enrollment of pupils into schools across the state. Sani, who expressed concern about the development linked each to the spate of insecurity occasioned by kidnapping, banditry, and other related crimes in the state. According to him, the government had begun the move to relocate 359 schools from tourist-infested areas and merge them with other schools in safe places. The governor disclosed these while declaring open a one-day capacity building program organized by the Nigeria Police Force, a school protection squad in Kaduna yesterday. Sani, who described as apt the theme of the program as strengthening security resilience and integration of host communities in the protection of education, further commended the Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Egbetokun, for establishing the Schools Protection Squad, a proactive initiative aimed at enhancing security and safety in educational institutions across Nigeria. Now, let's talk other matters where the federal government has vowed to pursue the criminal case against the crypto platform Binance and its officials to a logical end. This is coming on the heels of bribery allegations made by the chief executive officer of Binance, Richard Teng, in a blog post published by the New York Times NYT against the federal government, that some individuals had demanded $150 million bribe in cryptocurrency to settle the criminal charges against the firm. NYT reported on Tuesday that a compliance officer with the exchange platform, Tigran Gambarian, received an unsettling message to pay roughly $150 million in cryptocurrency within 48 hours, a claim top officials of the President Bola Tinubu administration described as false and unfounded. According to media reports, the incident allegedly occurred before Gambarian and a colleague, Nadeem Anjarwala, were arrested and detained on the orders of the National Security Advisor. While Anjarwala subsequently escaped and got traced to Kenya, Gambarian had been held in Kuje Correctional Facility in the last 4 weeks after he was transferred there from a safe house on April 8th. Both Binance and Gambarian are facing trial for tax evasion and money laundering, and their trial was scheduled to begin last Thursday, but the court postponed it until May 17th. I'm being joined by the Director, Initiative for Policy Intervention and Development, I4 PID, the person of Babatunde Oluwajo. He joins us live via telephone this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Oluwajo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Right. Very strong allegations of corruption against Nigeria by a national. Now, did this come to you as a surprise, especially for the fact that we've had, series of corruption, cases or scenarios to deal with internally as a nation?
Well, to be honest, it never came to me as a surprise, although the government has outrightly denied the allegation. But for anybody who has been following the way things are done, especially in the private sector, the demand for bribe is not something new at all. The demand for bribe by government officials, it's not something new. So for me, what the government has denied, it is still not coming to me as a surprise that such allegation is coming up.
But do you not think, while some Nigerians are saying that there is no, nonsense without sense, right? Some Nigerians actually think that the government should look inward without sentiment, and perhaps it would see an iota of truth in this allegation. But at the end of the day, do you not think that this is just a direct way to exonerate, itself and himself? Talking about, Anjarwala, who had actually escaped from custody, just to, evade arrest. This is just a plot, to cause some sort of distraction from being hit by the hammer.
Well, if you realize the fact that Binance actually is facing prosecution, in the US, despite the fact that the head of the organization has been sentenced in the US and the organization has been fined over $1 billion. There is no any allegation that anybody or any government official, US government official, ever made any demand for bribe. So if it is coming up in Nigeria, there must be a rationale for it. I simply think it goes beyond trying to evade justice. I simply think it goes beyond it, honestly speaking. Because as Nigerians, let's be honest with ourselves, the demand for bribe by public officials is not something new. It's almost on a daily basis these things come up. So if somebody is saying that, I simply think rather than just the government coming out to just dismiss it outright, I think the government needs to equally look inward, just like you rightly said, and know exactly who and who were involved in this. For me, it's not something new. Let's be honest with ourselves as Nigerians. It is a common practice for government officials, to demand for bribe. Even something as basic as budget. People in the National Assembly ask public government institutions to either, get their interests included in the budget of public institutions in the name of budget padding, or even demand outright bribe from heads of government institutions just to pass budgets. So if we have come that low, it is not something surprising, therefore, if somebody somewhere approach Binance and ask them for a bribe. It's not something new. As Nigerians, we need to be honest with ourselves. It's a common practice within the government sector for government officials to demand for bribes.
But what does this, place Nigeria amongst the Committee of Nations when you talk about integrity?
Well, I think, once again, we have shown ourselves that the more it appears we are making progress, the more backward we are going. Look at every sector of our national life. It is riddled with corruption. It is riddled with corruption. Tell me one sector in Nigeria that you need to do business with government institutions and you are not confronted with demand for bribe and inappropriate payments. So, for me, we have only further again confirmed who we are. That despite all the pretenses, nothing has changed fundamentally. And that's the truth. This same organization has been charged in the US, they have been fined, somebody has been sent to jail, but nobody had ever come out from that organization to send US government official ask for bribe from them. So if they are making that claim in Nigeria, I believe that there's no smoke without fire. We need to ask ourselves questions and investigate and get to the root of the matter rather than just outright the dismissal of that allegation.
Let's take this conversation a step backwards. You take a look at when Anjarawala escaped, from custody and eventually got traced to Kenya. There are insinuations that his escape was aided. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it all comes down to the same corruption we are talking about. How can a man who is in lawful detention get a passport smuggled into where he's being detained, then still add the distance to be able to pass through our airport and get out of the country, despite all the security and everything in the airport, at the airport. So for me, I think that even that ought to be further investigated to get to the root of the matter. If somebody who is in detention can just easily stroll through the airport and fly out of Nigeria, then I think something is amiss somewhere.
But what do you make of the activities of, this crypto firm Binance here in Nigeria? Does it pose any form of threat, to the country?
The CBN, another government official, saying that some of them have been involved in the currency manipulation and other things. But the point is that the government ought to know, or rather, ought to put in place adequate regulations to ensure that the any negative fallout from this cryptocurrency thing, is money to the barest minimum. There's no thing that is not prone to manipulation. People want to take advantage where there's an opportunity. But I think what the government needs to do is to put in place better regulation to ensure or to reduce to the barest minimum whatever negative effects this may want to have on our economy and as well as the value of our currency.
Well, in recent times, it appears the President Bola Tinubu-led administration is, intentional or hell-bent on dealing decisively with corruption. You take a look at, a member of, his cabinet talking about the suspended humanitarian minister, over, claims of, diversion of funds and all of that. For a number of Nigerians, that is just an indication that the President Tinubu-led administration is, ready to, match words with action. And you also take a look at the activities of, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in recent times. They clamped down on, naira racketeers and other fraudulent activities in the country. One would say that this administration is perhaps, ready to deal decisively with corruption. But now that this allegation has been brought forward, although it has been dismissed and, tagged baseless, what steps do you think, must be employed at this point in time to unravel whether or not this is true?
Well, the point, like I said, is that the government, after this dismissal of that allegation, ought to sit down and ask certain critical questions about itself and its officials. Because despite the suspension of the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, the same offense that he was accused of is still going on almost on a daily basis in the various MDAs. The idea of taking money from the public purse and then paying into private accounts is almost a normal occurrence in the civil service. It's almost on the day, it goes on every day. Meanwhile, there are clear regulations against this. But nobody is enforcing all the regulations that are meant to prevent such abuses. So what we need, the government needs to do is to ensure that not just having the laws in place, not just about having the regulations in place, but ensuring that these regulations and laws are fully implemented, and then the various MDAs, they are monitored such that there's no room for abuse. If you take the report of the Auditor General or even the Accountant General, you see various infractions being committed by the MDAs. But nobody is acting on some of the recommendations or some of the findings of all these reports. And except we do something, take a step to ensure that these recommendations, from government agencies themselves, like the Office of the Auditor General and the Accountant General, except those recommendations are implemented to the latter, then we are not going to make progress. It will just be all motion without movement. So, and I think the government needs to implement some of those things. Because what we need to do more in Nigeria is to even prevent corruption. And we have enough laws to help us, but nobody is paying attention to the implementation of those laws. And then people are not being held accountable for refusal, to abide by those regulations and laws.
But as it stands, do you think this should be of utmost concern, to the president, especially with regards to his anti-corruption crusade, and also taking cognizance of the fact that the firm we are dealing with at this point in time is one that is, quite sensitive. For the lack of better words, it's not like other firms. This one is one that is recognized not just in Nigeria but globally. Do you see kickbacks emanating from this particular issue at the end of the day?
Well, the point is that while it's a global organization, it has equally been globally recognized that it is also prone to abuses, it is prone to manipulation, it is prone to, not playing by the rules, but especially against the backdrop of the conviction in the US, where the organization has been fined over $1 billion, and where the chief executive has equally been fined and also sentenced to jail. So it therefore shows that the organization too definitely has its own issues, has its own shortcomings. So, and I therefore think that we need to take cognizance of that. However, we should, we should not, on the basis of, those convictions or those clear gap in the weight of plates or some of those abuses, the government officials should not take advantage of that to want to just clamp down without clear evidences of infractions. Where there are infractions, they should be made to face the lot of the law. The law should be a respecter of nobody. If they could be held accountable in the US, I think if they have done anything wrong in Nigeria, they should equally be held accountable. But government officials should not take that as an opportunity to want to shake down, officials of that organization.
All right. In a yes or no response, just to wrap up the conversation, do you think that bribe was actually demanded, to settle the criminal charges against the cryptocurrency firm?
Well, I cannot say it was demanded, but if the way, because I don't have any facts, and government has come to out to dismiss it, but if we know the way our public institutions operate, or rather our public officials, I won't be surprised somebody may have approached them. I mean, without proposal, without proposition to say, you know what, if you bring some money, we can help you resolve this matter, and then there will be no issue. I won't be surprised that happened. But as of today, government is claiming that it is business, but I still think government ought to ask itself questions, also to make some discreet investigation to get to the root and discover who are his officials who actually approach Binance with that proposal of payment of bribes.
All right. Director, Initiative for Policy Intervention and Development, I4PID, Babatunde Oluwajo, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, we just have to leave it here for now and keep tabs on, events as they unfold. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you up to speed with the latest development. That's it for news analysis today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Omoife Piso Semere. I'll be back in a moment with the news update. Good afternoon.